Okay, so recording has started. So my name's Kelsey. I am a new face to all of you, I'm sure. I am the new graduate assistant for the nutrition portion of Wellcats. I am working under Lindsay Mengy, and I am really excited to see you guys. And we're just gonna have many more of these PAN classes throughout the semester. So if you have anything particular that you're looking to enjoy or that you would like for me to make, I am open to suggestions, and I'm always open to feedback of anything that I can do to further um, just make this a more enjoyable class for everybody. So please do tell me if there's something that I should be doing better. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I'm going to bring up the recipe. This is available on our Teams um, on our team site under files, and I'll also upload it to our Canvas site. Could someone please just tell me to make sure that you are seeing the recipe?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes, we are.
Perfect. Thank you. So today we're making a cornbread topped chili casserole, and I actually, while I've made cornbread and I've made different types of chilies, I never had made this one before. I had found the original recipe on in a magazine, Eat Well, and I kind of did some tweaks on it to really like amplify the nutrition in this. So because I had never made it before, I made it last night. Just so that I'd be able to give you guys some feedback, and just so that, you know, this would go more smoothly today. So I will say that the serving size, it shows about 6, but I'm going to tell you that that cup is a pretty hearty serving size. So know that you could potentially make them smaller serving sizes if you needed to, based off of your appetite and satiety. The ingredients we're going to need are all listed here. I chose to list out individual ingredients because I prefer to make my own chili seasoning. It's a great way to keep salt from not creeping up into our recipes whenever we don't need them to. And then I just add salt right before I eat it, just at the table. So I went ahead and I've mixed together all of the seasonings already, and that is what you will see in this cup here. It's very, very aromatic. It's a very good blend of spices, I think. The only thing that I didn't list here is that if you like a really spicy chili, you can add in cayenne or like a hot sauce to make it just a little bit spicier. We're going to add in some zucchini. We're making this with ground turkey, just the different things here. So we'll just go ahead and get started. I'm going to stop sharing the recipe. Come back to me. I'm going to pin myself. Okay, so let me put this here. So the very first step in all of this is that we want to preheat the oven, which I already have going. It is at 450 degrees. And we are going to section out the things that I've already showed you, and then we're going to start dicing and cutting up our things. So I thought it'd be good to show you guys how I dice things up. I'm really trying to aim for keeping consistent sizes and fun facts, you know. So I'm going to tilt this screen down here. And we're starting off with our zucchini, and we want 2 cups. So that's roughly about 2 spears. It's just normal size. What I'm going to do is cut the ends off, and you're going to see me randomly throwing stuff. It's not on the ground. I have a trash can right there. And then what I'm going to do is cut these into quarters. So I'm going to cut this in half. And then I'm going to take each one of these and I'm going to cut it in half again. Okay. And then I'm going to leave these rather thick. I'd say about 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick. And the reason why I do that is because zucchini really likes to crumble or become mushy whenever you cook it. And for me, that's not very palatable, not very tasty. So yeah, I like bigger chunks. If you prefer smaller, you are more than welcome to do as you see fit. I also want to note that I washed these before we came on, just some water. So again, just cutting ends off, cut in half. Again. So a little bit about why I chose this recipe. One, it was a very cold day, and I was like, what's better on a cold day than chili? I like warm things when I'm cold. And then the other aspect of it is that January is blood donor month. So with that being said, I thought it'd be good to give you guys an iron-rich food that is really using different nutritional components to be able to get you your maximum iron. So switching to the onion, I like to show people this onion trick because I think that it's extremely helpful. Now you can see the onion here, the root, and then I can't remember the name of this thing, but this little bulbous part, whenever we start to cut our onion, we're trying to make sure that all our pieces are even and that we're not wasting a lot of time and that we're using as much of the onion as possible. So I'm going to cut this half off, or this portion off. You don't want to take the root portion off because otherwise, whenever you'll see, but as we start cutting it, everything starts sliding around and it turns into a heyday really quick. So I'm cutting that. Now I'm going to put it top right, and I'm going to cut this in half again. We're going to remove our skins. Try not to cry. But this is just a sweet onion, I believe is the one that I got. You can use any onion that you like. White onions are good as well, less potent. So I got this set aside. And we're going for 2 cups, which for me last night was about a whole onion. And the other thing that I'm going to say about this, well, I'll tell you about that in a minute. But so to continue with how we're going to cut the onion, we're going to start by cutting parallel to the cutting board. And I'm going down, and I'm not cutting all the way through. If you look and you see the onion, I'm not cutting all the way to the end. I'm going to keep sliding that back here, and notice my hands are always above where my knife is. So I'm creating the framework for the sides of the onion that I'm going to cut, or the pieces that I want. And now I'm going vertical to the cutting board. And again, I'm just spacing these out to the size that I want my onion to be. Now with the root, like I was telling you earlier, it's all staying in place, but if you see, there's a little sections. So now we're going to take it and we're going to go with the root of the onion, and we're just going to dice this down. And if you can see, we've got these beautiful, even, quickly cut onions. I just realized I'm going to turn on my cast iron skillet really quick because I have a glass top and it just takes a little bit longer for it to heat up. So give me one moment. Okay, so there's one. Let me get another mold. So we're gonna go ahead and put these onions here. Now, if you can see, that was very minimal waste. I've used pretty much that whole portion of that onion. So again, we're gonna go this way. Okay, and then slicing perpendicular again. Fun fact, the way that I learned to cut this was on YouTube through a Gordon Ramsay video. I used to live overseas in Spain, and when I lived there, we didn't have a lot of money, but we traveled a lot, which was fun because it's cheap to do so over there. And one of my hobbies was learning to cook because we hosted a lot of people. My husband was in the military, he was Navy. So Navy people, things they like to do is hang out and eat. So I got on that bandwagon really quick. Okay. All right, so now we've got our onion diced, and my pan should be relatively hot. We are going to move over and we're going to start cooking these onions. So I'm going to have to do that segmentally. So one moment here. Oh, and I just saw that I have a question in the chat. So give me a moment and I will look at that as well. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you like the onions. Okay, so I am checking to see if my pan is hot enough, and it feels like it is. If you ever wonder if your pan is hot enough, you can get your hand wet and just dice some water in there. And lo and behold, if it sizzles, it is ready for you. I can feel the heat radiating. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a tablespoon of vegetable oil on here. I'm doing this because I'm honoring the recipe that I gave you guys, but if we're being honest, I usually just throw a dash in there and do it by eyesight. A quick tablespoon is roughly the size of your thumb. I am putting this onion in here. Now, I'm not going to use the whole amount of onion. And the reason why is because if you remember at the beginning, I told you that I made this yesterday. And what I made, I feel like you can't see. When I made it yesterday, I'm using an 8-inch cast iron skillet, and my skillet was filled to the rim. So if you have a 12-inch, I think everything would be fine, but my 8-inch didn't work. So I'm going to have to just cut down a little bit on the amounts that I'm using here. So if you can see, what I'm looking for with my onions is to have them go translucent. Right now they're pretty white. We're going to let that cook for a little while, and I'll show you what the translucent is. What I mean by translucent. Basically, we don't want any browning. Let's see here. Just checking our recipe. Okay, well, fun facts. While these onions are cooking, back to the fact that January is blood donor month and why I chose this recipe. So iron is an important component to shuttling oxygen around in our blood. And whenever we are looking at iron, there are different parts of iron that we can consume. We can consume heme iron and non-heme iron. Heme basically meaning that it comes from an animal product of some kind, and non-heme meaning from non-animal products. So this chili is really cool because I'm giving you, well, the recipe, not I. The recipe is giving you both. You're getting your heme iron from the turkey, the lean turkey that we are going to add in here. And then you're getting non-heme iron from your beans that we're going to add in here, the black beans and I put kidney beans on the recipe, but HEB gave me red beans. It's fine either way. And then the really cool thing about it is that non-heme iron, whenever you consume it, you want to consume it with some vitamin C so that your body can take it in quicker, because I feel like I'm getting really nerdy, sorry. But the vitamin C will basically help you be able to take in iron quicker so that you're really maximizing these nutrients and that you're able to really just absorb as much as you can and get that blood moving. All right, so if you look and you see, can you guys see these onions okay? I don't want to get it too close and then steam up the camera. If you can see here, they're starting to turn a different color. They're less white and they're lightening up. So I'm going to cook it for just a little bit longer, and I'm going to go, the next step in our recipe is to add the ground turkey. So I'm going to go grab that out of the fridge and then we'll be right back. Okay. My onions are getting a little brown on them, which is fine. But if you don't want to do that, that's just an indication that your pan's maybe a little too hot for you. It's called sweating whenever you turn them translucent. So whenever you sweat the onions. So I'm just going to add in my meat there. Some people like to break it up by hand. I am of the opinion that you can just put it in here and break it up and it comes out just as fine. And then you don't risk foodborne illness on your hands and while you're eating it. So I'm just breaking this, and while I'm cooking this turkey, I am also still tossing around my onions. I'm gonna wait on the zucchini, and I'm gonna add that in last because whenever we put it into the oven, it's gonna also cook rather quickly. And again, I'm trying to avoid that mushy, watery taste there is. I'm sure if you've had zucchini before, you know what I'm talking about. It changes in consistency because of the water properties in it. Okay. So we're still going on here. So a cool thing about the iron that I was mentioning earlier, just something for you to know, is that we actually have something called, excuse me, the dietary guidelines, which is put forth by the National Institute of Health to, which tells us like different vitamins, minerals, nutrients, like what a healthful way of eating is. So their recommendation for iron for women ages 19 to 50 is about 18 milligrams. And that's per the new dietary guidelines that just came out in December. They get renewed every 5 years. And then if you're a male, for males ages 19 to 50, it's 8 milligrams. So there's a 10 milligram difference between men and women. Any guesses to why that could be? Spoiler alert, it is because of menstruation. And females require more iron because of that. And if you're pregnant or lactating, just side note, your iron needs would be different. Iron needs for a pregnant woman is about 27 milligrams. And if you're lactating, it is 10 milligrams. Creating life puts a lot of stress on your body, and you need that iron in your blood moving around. Okay, so if you see, my turkey is pretty much all the way cooked, and it's broken up pretty well. So like I said, that's why I prefer to do it this way and just keep raw meat off my hands. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add in the zucchini. This is about 2 cups, but again, I'm not gonna put all of it in there just because my pan is not as big as I thought it was yesterday. So I'm gonna add these in here. We're gonna move it around. And then we're gonna start adding in those delicious, nutritious beans that I was telling you about. I'm sorry I keep popping out of camera. I will get better about that. It's my first setup. So I'm using black beans, and I buy no salt added. If you can't access the no salt added, it's no problem. You can just rinse them off with some water. And I'm using about half a can. If you had the 12-inch pan or you use a cast iron skillet, not a cast iron skillet, what are those things called? Oh my goodness. The Dutch ovens, then you wouldn't have a problem. You could use full cans, but I'm using about half a can of each of these. And this is red beans that I'm adding. Again, you can use kidney or anyone. And then, oh, this one, no salt added rotel. You can dice up your own tomatoes. You can add in a tomato paste. I just like this because it gives it a little bit more spice, which I mean, I'm Texan, so I feel like chili should have spice. Although I know there is a great debate about beans and chili in Texas, but clearly my super helpful iron tips have converted you, right? All right, so we're gonna let that cook for a minute. Just letting it bubble. Oh, and corn. I didn't have the corn. I'm just using frozen baby white golden corn, and I'm going to use probably about half this bag, which is about half. Again, I'm doing about half of what the recipe that I put on Lolcats says. So you just put it in there frozen because again, once we put it in the oven, it's gonna cook in really well. I am all about convenience foods, being a mother of a toddler and a graduate student. So let's get the nutrition in there and not judge, right? Actually, I'm gonna add in a little bit more corn because let me show you. Basically, you can't see it, and I want this to be pretty. I like the different colors. It makes it more appetizing and makes you want to eat more. So I'm just gonna add some more yellow. So I put about half the bag in there, which is half the recipe that I gave you. Okay, so we're letting that cook. As you can see, even with me using half in that 8-inch skillet, I'm pretty full here. But we're gonna move on to making the cornbread. Okay. Am I moving too fast? Is everyone doing great? You can just give me a thumbs up.
No, you're good. But I did want to bring up the fact that you do put in all the liquid with all the beans.
Yes.
Yes. So you don't drain anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that just depends on the salt content that you want. So because the primarily what I added in was salt free, I didn't rinse the red beans, but I want that liquid in there from beans from the cans so that I have a little bit of a creamy texture whenever I go to eat my chili.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If you were to take it out and rinse it, you could just add in like a broth or a water or something to substitute it.
Right.
Add our seasoning, by the way. So
then it would be it would be too dry and not really like a chili.
Exactly. It would be very powdery.
Yeah.
So thank you for pointing that out because that was a bit of a contradiction in what I said. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Yeah. There we go. Mixing in that chili. I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like if you looked at the recipe, you may be surprised that I put cinnamon in there. Let me tell you, it makes it a really bold and delicious chili. You don't need a lot of it. Definitely not because you don't want to be eating, or you don't want to be very aware of the fact that it's in there, but just that little dash just gives it a very bold flavor that I really enjoy. Okay, so let me show you what this looks like with that seasoning in there. So now it's a redder, more bolder, chili-like color. All right. So last night, whenever I made the chili, I made the cornbread as listed on the instructions. And I'm going to be completely honest with you and say that it wasn't my favorite. It was kind of crumbly. There wasn't a lot of flavor. So what I did this time to remedy that is I followed exactly what was on the cornmeal recipe for this. And the differences on what is on my recipe versus what I'm doing here is I'm going to double the amount of buttermilk that's in here. So I'll do 2 cups of buttermilk. I'm doing 2 eggs instead of 1. And I added half a teaspoon of baking soda. I just think that's going to give it a better consistency than what I have provided you. So I am sorry about that, but I hope that you make note, and I can definitely put a revised recipe up. So this cornbread is basically a cup and a half of cornmeal. It's going to be 2 eggs that I'm about to add in, 2 cups of buttermilk, a teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and then we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. So I'm adding in my eggs.
Well, okay, I had a question. Does the cornbread taste a little sweet, or is it not at all?
So it didn't taste sweet at all. If you wanted to make it sweeter, if you like a sweeter cornbread, you could add in some honey. You could add in a bit of sugar. I wouldn't go more than, for the amount, I wouldn't add more than 1/3 of a cup, I would say, if you're using regular sugar. If you're if you would prefer to have what am I trying to say? Like if you have a concern like diabetes or something, to where you don't want to necessarily take in a lot of sugar, you can use an artificial sweetener like a stevia or Splenda, and they have conversions on their
okay, well, well, let me take that back, because if it's on top of, you know, the chili underneath, it's not like a cornbread that you're eating by yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That's when they're dry like that, it's like, oh, that's not that appetizing. But if it's gonna have all this underneath it, it probably would be fine without it.
I absolutely agree with you. Let me add in the oil.
Did you add flour?
Did I add flour? You can. I know some people do. I did not.
Okay. I made cornbread just the other night, and so I was comparing what I did to, you know, your recipe. And it's funny because we watched a cowboy cooking show the other night too, where he made cornbread. And I think the eggs, I used 1 in my recipe and it was a little bit crumbly. And so I think the 2 eggs is probably better to make it a little more, I guess, where it sticks together, not so much crumbles, you know?
Yes, absolutely. So egg is a great binding agent. So it's going to basically do exactly what you said. It's going to combine everything so that it just doesn't like, I felt like it was kind of sawdusty in my mouth whenever I ate it yesterday. And that just, I don't want y'all to eat sawdusty consistency. So, but again, that's also preference. My husband ate it and he liked it. I just, of course, you know, you're hypercritical of your own cooking. So this is basically the consistency of it, right? I don't want to spill this on my laptop. Let's see. That's the consistency of my cornbread. Now, again, we're going to move over to our pan and we're going to put this right on top of our, Go ahead and turn this off. And I'm just going to pour it.
Oh, I see what you mean about the size of the pan.
Oh yeah, I went a little heavy on the pouring. I thought it was going to fit a little better.
Yeah, especially when you put it in the oven, you don't want any of that coming off the sides.
No, I agree. I'm going to be putting a baking sheet underneath all this. So even with half, it's still one pretty full floors there. Let me get a baking sheet because the next step is to put it into the oven. So let me go ahead, put that here. I'm thinking that it could be the amount of buttermilk that I put in there too, made it just a little waterier. Okay. All right, so yeah, I would say whenever you're making this, just make sure and be conscious of your speed of pour on that. So I just set it in. I'll show you my setup whenever it comes out. But basically what I did was I put a cookie sheet I put my cast iron skillet on top of a cookie sheet and it's in my oven. So we're gonna put that in there. I'm setting a timer. That takes about 20 minutes to cook. So I'm gonna go ahead and start that. And I have what's called a convection oven. So it distributes the heat differently than a conventional oven does. So it should cook longer. So I'm probably gonna check on it in like 10 minutes and we'll see how it's cooking and shaping up because it may cook faster. For those of you that have watched this and you're maybe not interested in waiting to just see basically how my cornbread came out, I did save a slice of what I made last night. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you what I made. This is the cornbread, and this is one serving. I made sure to be very true to size of what a serving is. So it is a hearty serving. And then you can see the different flavors, the meat, the zucchini that's in here, and so on. And I'll go ahead and I'm gonna take a bite and I'm just gonna walk you through kind of the flavors and the textures that I'm getting after I just talked so much smack about my cornbread. So, but to be truthful, honestly, like it was fine. What I did was I took the cornbread, the way that it is in the recipe, and I just broke it up. And I mixed it in. And I just took a bite like that. And I mean, it's still very good. So, give me a minute. I don't want to talk with my mouth full, sorry. The chili powder is present in here. I really like that in a chili. I think that that's, you know, the essential component in it. There's a little bit of heat that you get from that rotel. I did not add any cayenne or any sort of hot sauce to mine, which some people traditionally do. But again, remember that you're adding salt to your food if you do that. You just have to make that decision for yourself if that's something that you want to do. The beans are very flavorful. You're getting a lot of fiber. You're going to feel very full after eating this meal. It's very light. Well, I mean, light isn't the right word. Let me think. It doesn't coat your mouth while you're eating. Like it's going to make you feel very full and you're going to feel very satisfied after the meal. But whenever you're eating it, a lot of chilies, whenever you eat it, it'll coat your mouth and you can feel like a layer of film, I feel like. This one does not do that, which obviously I'm going to be a fan of. I enjoy that. So the onions, I know whenever we put it in the pan, it looks like a lot of onion, but if you look at the way that this plate is, you can't even pick out the onion. They really just kind of melt into the food there. So for me, I think that the amount of onion was perfect. And that was with the 2 cups. And yeah. Are there any questions or anything that I can help clarify in regards to that? I feel like I talked really fast. I'm sorry.
Well, I had a question. If you didn't want to do the cornbread on top, could you do that as a chili? Is it hearty enough and I guess not really runny, but you know, not so thick that you could eat it like that?
So yes, I would say that it absolutely is. I would say that the biggest difference between this and how I traditionally make my chili, whenever I'm just making chili and then like cornbread separately, is that I'm probably going to add a couple more cans of like tomato sauce to it. And again, I'm always just trying to reduce my salt, so I just try not to buy the salt the salt added versions, and then I just put my salt on my food before I eat it because I love salt. Yeah, I'm talking about limiting salt so much, but all I'm doing is limiting it while I'm cooking it, and then I add it on before so that I can actually get that flavor and that taste. Otherwise, it's hidden and I don't taste it. So you absolutely can make these two as 2 separate independent things. The other thing that you can do is if you don't want to individually like section out all the chili powder, or you don't want to individually make your, or I'm saying individually, but I mean from scratch. From scratch, make your cornbread. You can buy some relatively healthy box versions or low sodium premixed versions of a chili seasoning. And just things that you want to make sure to watch for on that is salt, because they are adding a lot of those in those prepackaged seasonings. But the components can really shape up well and be like a quick, you know, just speed up the process time of cooking. So let's see, it's been about 5 minutes. I don't think that this is going to be done, but let me just see how it's looking. Oh, it looks done. One sec. Let me see here. Okay, I need 2 mittens. Let me get a thermometer and check that bread. Okay, convection oven for the win. 5 minutes is all it took. My internal temperature there was about 130. So 140 is about right, but I think that it was just 130 because I pulled it out early. Let's see. Yeah. $142 is what it's showing me. All right, so I'll go ahead and show you how I did the portioning of the 6. Let me see. So for this, this is my same style for cutting at home pizza too. I'm just gonna cut it in half. And then I'm gonna make an X across that half. Not perfectly even, but I'm counting it. And let me get another plate. And we'll do a serving dish or a serving utensil. Hard not to throw your hand in there. It's like you see it's hot, but you still want to help it. Okay. This smells good. All right, so if you look, this is the fresh. Woo! Okay. You see the fresh cornbread. Let me move over where there's better light. Hold on. Okay. There's a fresh cornbread. It's definitely got a little bit more of a better texture. As you saw what I was heating up or showing you guys earlier, it was kind of just grouping weird, I guess would be the best way. But let's see. I have to pull. This smells really good. I can tell the difference in this versus yesterday's. Let me get a bite of everything. Okay, make sure I'm not gonna burn myself. Yeah, that cornbread changed everything. It was really good. I mean, it was good before, but this just is a more familiar texture for me. I'm gonna try not to eat this all, like inhale it in front of you. That is really good. Whenever it comes fresh out of the oven, the corn brings a sweetness to it, which balances out that chili. I don't get no strong onion flavor. That cornbread is crumbling bright, gives it an extra texture, and it blends well with the meat itself. So I definitely recommend that. And I personally, I wouldn't, I added salt to yesterday's. I wouldn't add salt to this. I think this is great the way that it is. Yeah, you should try this recipe. This is great. I'll make sure to post the revision to the Wellcat site.
Well, that would be great.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's a little confusing that you showed up here. I showed you one thing and then I told you I changed a bunch of things. So I'm sorry. I'll be better next time.
Well, that's what you do with recipes. You know, you change them, and if you don't like it, and you make it a little better for yourself. So.
And it's funny because you can follow a recipe and then it's still going to come out different every single time, even if you did it the same to a T.
Well, thank you. And It was nice meeting you.
Yes, thank you.
I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed this, and I would love to hear your feedback on the recipe or anything else. I believe you guys get a survey after this, so just be sure and tell me the truth.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I didn't see you dump the meat in, but was that like pieces of turkey or was it ground turkey? It didn't look like it was actually ground turkey to me.
Oh, it is ground so it is ground turkey. It's like the finely ground turkey. So it's it was the HEB 90% lean. Give me a second, I'll show you. It's just the one in the rolls. So here, I'll show you the package. It is a ground turkey.
Okay.
It's just finely ground. And then if you like a more hearty chili, I mean, of course, you can play around with different percentages. The lower the you know, if you do like an 80-20, it's going to have a little bit more of that coating flavor that I was telling you about in your mouth with the turkey meat, because of the fat that's in there. But I don't feel that this needs that. But your own palate, your own preferences. Cool. Any other questions? No? Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.